Hello and welcome to another An Old Man Watches. And today I'm going to be talking about the 1960 film David and Goliath. And in this movie, King Saul of Israel is not having a good time. First, the Philistines, or Philistines, depending on how you want to pronounce it, Philistines defeated his army and captured the Holy Ark of the Covenant, severely denting King Saul's prestige with his people and imposing a harsh peace treaty. And now the prophet Samuel has turned up at his court and publicly announced that God is not pleased with Saul's rule and that a new and greater king, originating from the humble town of Bethlehem, will rise to replace him. As you might imagine, King Saul is far from pleased with this particular bit of prophecy. Meanwhile, we meet the young shepherd David. David's girlfriend is struck by lightning and killed, which leaves him heartbroken. But his spirits are quickly lifted when Samuel announces that David is to be the next king. Off the back of this affirmation, David heads off to Jerusalem. There, he's angered by the authorities' rough treatment of the people and rouses the crowd to protest against the harsh and corrupted government. This brings him to the attention of King Saul, as you might imagine, who recognizes the young man as his prophesied replacement. In the spirit of keep your enemies close, Saul invites David to become his advisor. After all, once he's a member of the court, it should be easy enough to manipulate the youth into a dangerous situation, such as one-on-one combat against the gigantic champion of the Philistine army, Goliath. So this Italian production is presumably an attempt to cash in on the success of religiously themed films like The Ten Commandments and Ben-Hur. Both of those had been the highest grossing films of the year they were released, 1956 and 59 respectively, and the latter had won an unprecedented 11 Academy Awards. The only way this film stacks up against either of those movies, though, is in the physical stature of the fellow playing Goliath. In every other respect, it falls short. Let's talk about why. So first of all, the image on your screen very much emphasises the fact that Orson Welles is in this film. Welles also received prominent billing on posters during the film's release. And, that's understandable. He was A, a giant of the cinema industry, and B, the only cast member that US audiences were likely to recognise. They're certainly not going to recognise the young man playing David, who was a Croatian actor. However, the focus on Orson Welles' presence in the film is ultimately a problem for the movie when you come to watch it, because, frankly, he doesn't have that big a role. Now, let's be clear, this is not Marlon Brando in Superman cameo level territory. Welles is playing King Saul, and King Saul is important to the plot, and he does turn up on several occasions. But he doesn't have all that many minutes of screen time. He's a supporting player, despite his number one billing. So anyone drawn to viewing this movie because they want to watch an Orson Welles film is likely to be disappointed. Though apparently Welles did direct his own scenes, so if you just watch the 15 minutes he's in, you've got an Orson Welles short film, I guess. It won't make any sense, but you've got one. So that's problem number one. Problem number two is David. It's probably not the intended reading of the film, but the main impression that I got of David was that he was a bit of a jerk. First of all, we have his distress over the death of his girlfriend, which vanishes pretty much as soon as he meets an attractive princess. I guess, absence makes the heart forget rather than grow fonder, because he certainly moves on pretty quick. For another, when the prophet Samuel challenges him to prove his wisdom, David's solution isn't so much wise as it is cynical sophistry. The conundrum is that Israel must prepare for war, but the country's treaty with the Philistines does not allow anyone but the palace guard to bear weapons. David's alleged wisdom is, the treaty doesn't limit how many people can be in the palace guard. This isn't even particularly clever sophistry. It's a pretty obvious dodge. I suspect your average 10-year-old could probably have said, just make everybody in the palace guard, and then everyone can have arms, right? There's very little, reason here to go, David, he's an ace guy. He's just so awesome, because he's not. And that makes him difficult to like or care about as a protagonist, as you might imagine. Finally, though it's clearly intended to cash in on the success of religiously themed epics like The Ten Commandments and Ben-Hur, this movie conspicuously lacks the sumptuous and scale of those films. The issue, of course, is money. This production just never had the same kind of cash to spend on its sets and costumes, or on its post-production, and that's particularly conspicuous because most of the dialogue has been dubbed in after the event. The audio clearly does not synchronise well with the movement of the actors' mouths, quite possibly because few of them spoke English as their native language, and may well have been delivering their lines in Italian. It's a distracting thing. And then to give credit, I want to say something positive, and to give credit where credit is due, which it generally isn't with this movie, the film does save its best efforts for the showdown between David and Goliath, an encounter that it also moves to the conclusion of the film rather than an early event in David's career, as it is in the Bible. It makes for a comparatively effective and fulsome finale to an otherwise rather threadbare production. This movie is available free online. You can get it at archive.org and other places. It's in the public domain, so if you really are desperate to see it, you can. I don't think I would recommend it, though. But that is David and Goliath. Next time, an even more threadbare production, the 1957 science fiction film The Amazing Transparent Man, presumably because calling it The Invisible Man would have run into issues with the estate of H.G. Wells, I'm guessing. In any case, that's next time. In the meantime, thanks for watching this one, and I hope you enjoyed it.